I sowed two different types of turnip. What I've got growing in these 4 containers here is purple top Milan. I sowed this in mid-March, and I've kept it always under cover of this plastic. I'm only sowing this here at home because I'm wanting it for the turnip tops and also for the young mature roots. So basically I'm just not going to let it grow to its full extent. The other variety I sowed a bit later was turnip Petrowski, and it says here these I'm going to grow them also to have baby turnips, because it says they're delicious in cooked stews, grated raw into salads. But both of these turnips I'm not taking them down the allotment. They didn't work where I am. Too many pests basically, and I've still got to work the soil. I've been down there about 5 years. It's still not up to grade. I haven't got the time, so I'm thinking of other ways of treating the soil. So there they are. They're doing quite well. I'm not going to lift the cover up on these ones because otherwise some pests might get in. But you can see they're doing very well. That's my turnip purple top Milans. Again, using the grow bag idea, where you just split the grow bag open and put a big plastic cover over it. I use a plastic cover from the wood shavings for my guinea pigs to make my own sort of mini sort of greenhouse, if you like, inside. Half of this has been put with bergamot, which you can use to make tea, and also for salads, puddings, or in tea. So the flowers and leaves, it says, can be used in salads, puddings, or teas. So that's half of this. Is bergamot seeds sown about a week ago, so we're now 10th of April, and then the other half is teas. I've only used some of the seeds here. They're much larger seeds. Again, I'm going to have some of this going down the allotment because the seeds will be edible for the birds in autumn. So basically it's also good for attracting pollinators. And these I found where I am, which is in Nottinghamshire in England, it's a little bit chilly. It seems to be about 2 weeks behind the season down south, so I'll keep these under these cover and pick this up for under £2 at the National Trust. It's a rhubarb Victoria. They had larger specimens for sale at just under £6, but I choose the smaller one. You can crop between March and August. This one won't be ready for cropping until another 2 years. I've used well-rotted horse manure. I bought a large bag. They were on a discount for £2, mixed it in with the clay soil, watered it well, and added a bit of tomato fertiliser to it. The leaf dropped off, well, that was in transit because it was in a paper bag, but it should be okay. These leeks, which were leek Musselburgh, were sown on the 13th of March. It's now the 11th of April. I had them in a little plastic sort of greenhouse. They didn't do too well. I think the chill got to them. So again, I've copied the other idea I've used by putting these bags over them. In this case here, it was like something from an online order. Just put the bag over it and I put it on the garden bench. It seemed to have done a heck of a lot better. In the last few sunshine, the last few days, suddenly the leeks have come up. So that's quite a delay in the germination of the seeds. I mean, the soil looks quite wet. I haven't watered it much extra. I think it's just basically rained so heavily over the last 2 weeks. But now, with it covered up and in the sunshine, suddenly I was about to give up on these, but here they come, the Musselburgh. The Wilco strawberry plants, which are Temptation, say they can be harvestable in July, but these are a compact variety. They're called Temptation. So if you see them around, I don't know if anyone else has got experience, it tells you that if you get between the shoots, if you get like an extra shootlet coming up on a side branch, you've got to nip them out, and also to nip out the tops of them. But I'll just see whether they produce any strawberries first before I get fancy on how I look after them. Kale's done extremely well here. As you can see, it's germinated very well. So I've got to prepare a bed. Well, I'm at the moment preparing a bed for the kale down at the lot. I also picked up these, which I've had to transplant from Morrison's. It's beetroot seedlings. They came in sort of in plugs, and it looked like at first that you only got, say, about 14 plants, but I noticed that each little cell had, and I'm not joking, about sort of half a dozen seedlings. And I think they were only a couple of pounds or something. So anyway, it took me quite a while, quite a bit of time to get these out individually. I soaked them overnight in water because they weren't too good, and I put them into these tubs which I've scrubbed out, fresh compost, and I've given them a bit of plant food from tomato food. And I'm keeping them down here at home until they're a bit stronger. And I don't know, I mean, I've grown it a couple of times, but we'll have to see how they do down there. It does say that it is a good variety, so we'll have to see how the Morrison's beetroot gets on. The seedlings here are from crabapple, and I've got a couple of crabapple trees at home, but I wanted to have some to bring down because apparently they're fantastic pollinators for apple trees. And the other things that's just coming up on the end there are from quince seedlings. A bit slower to come up, but the crab apples seem to be very vigorous. My leeks, which were sown on the 13th of March, are only just coming up now. It's now the 11th of April, and this is under this plastic cover. So that's leek Musselburgh. Close to mid-April here, you can see how profuse crabapple blossom is. I've got 4 or 5 varieties of crab apples in my garden, and no wonder people say that it's handy to have around if you've got apple trees, because they say it's a fantastic cross-pollinator. These are the strawberries I've got on the plot at the moment. They're just into flower. They were here on the plot, and I basically propagated them along from runners late autumn and sort of over the winter months. My strawberries have benefited from some chicken manure pellets, and I've also used some tomato food liquid on them, and they're all just out in flower, a lot of them, and so I have to see what we get this year. Last year I was quite pleased with the crop. The clay soil seems to give it an extra sort of tang as well, unusual, different to the shop bought ones. That's a temporary quick fix down at the allotment until my composting bin and my orders for gypsum have been done, because I'm going to get some gypsum and some lime. And some people have also mentioned sharp sand for this type of soil. Here we have your typical challenge that I've had down here for the last 5 years, a typical lump. If I put my hand by the lump, you can see how big it is, and it weighs, I'd say, probably about a kilogram, and it's lumps this size now, and we're April the 11th. So what I'm going to do today, I'll just spend a few minutes smashing it up with a sledgehammer. And previous plots I've got ready, here we go. I've got little squares I've worked, and I've had brassicas on them, so I'm not having brassicas on them this year. It's going to be I'm going to put beans in this year. It's mostly broad beans, okay. And obviously I'm going for the stringy beans or stringless beans on this one here, which I'm going to do today. And on these other plots, basically what I've done, I've dug up as much as I can, spade it, forked it. These have previously had brassicas in, and then basically I've smashed it up then with a sledgehammer, and then I put some well-rotted horse manure down, which I bought from the garden centre, and quite a lot of chicken pellets down as a sort of a slow-release fertiliser. When it's slightly damp but not saturated, I'll plant, but I'm going to plant later than probably most people would, because I'm here in Nottinghamshire. It seems to be at least 2 or 3 weeks behind what everyone else does. Here we have the plot where I'm going to put the climbing beans in. Might put stringless in if I'm lucky, and there's the trusty sledgehammer that helped me. I put some well-rotted horse manure on top. There's also some chicken manure pellets in there. Basically I've smashed up the clay from being in 1.5 to 2 kilogram lumps, so huge lumps basically. Smashed it up. Of course they'll be back again, but if you choose your planting times correctly, like I said earlier, I've ordered some gypsum and I've ordered some lime. Some people also mentioned coarse sand as well to improve this, but for now I've got to get these crops in. So today I've just planted about 60, get about 60 in this packet of the Unwin's broad bean Jubilee Hycer. and it's on this particular plot here, which has been spaded over, smashed it up with the lump hammer, sledgehammer, stroke sledgehammer. I've put horse manure in it, chicken manure, pellets, and basically this is, as I say, some broad beans. I've planted them in rows. They're about 4 to 5 inches apart. The actual plants in the rows are about 10 to 12 inches apart, and I've managed to get about, I don't know, about 6 rows. I think you've probably got about 80 broad beans. They say a 60 average, but they seem to be quite generous, so I have to see how they go. Mid-April now. Planted this out a few days ago. You get about 120 turbo onions in. Planted them around 4 inches apart, and the rows about 6 to 8 inches apart. And I've put plenty of chicken manure pellets on and some well-rotted horse manure. I had just about given up on the raspberries when I first came down 5 years ago, but discovered that someone had been growing them down the bottom of the plot, and probably had been growing around on this area, you know, since the Second World War, when they were part of a range of crops that people could you know, produce to eat without having to buy things from the shops. And basically this variety seems to be incredibly hardy. It's a summer fruiting variety, so I basically just got as many small canes as I could from the bottom of the plot, which were being strangled by vine weeds, and planted them right the way along the edge of this raised bed area. And of course it's taken root all along this side as well. Interspersed, I put some small black currant plants as well, and also some golden variety of raspberry, 3 lots. My gauge plum blossom towards the top of the tree survived better than at the bottom, and that's mainly because I've put some protection around the tree where there was this old aluminium lined wall. It's got sort of a foam inside to it. A neighbour told me that it came from a massive shed, but I think it was basically just the metal was taking away all of the warmth around these trees, and these gauge plums are extremely sensitive to frost. But I've actually been around myself with my trusty little watercolour brush and pollinated this from my other plum trees, and I do think some of this blossom has survived, unlike last year when by now it was all well and truly brown and crisped and frosted to death. So I'm crossing my fingers, might get some gauge plums this year. Greenfinch there, in the blue on the back there, making his rasping call.